So welcome. This is just a short tutorial on how to install the Windows 10 that's available through the university. So the first thing you need to do is we need to go to Azure Dev Tools for Teaching. And again, I'm assuming you've already got this figured out. You've already seen the instructions on how to do this. So I'm just going to make some assumptions here. So I'm going to fire up my favorite browser. I'm going to type in, Azure Dev Tools for Teaching. And get into this guy. So here we are. Azure Dev Tools. Whoop, come on. Here we go. Azure Dev Tools for Teaching. Okay, so I do have to sign in. All right, kind of makes sense. All right. So I'm going to go in here and give it my top secret super duper password here. And then I'm signed in, and we're going to go and look at what downloads are available for us. So I'm not going to read any of this. I'm just going to go directly to the software part and scroll down there, and I need to find the Windows 10 guy. Now, oddly enough, I don't even know what order these things are in, but this one says the N edition. I don't want that one. I want the plain old Windows 10 Education. Okay, so that's the one that I want. Not the one that has an N in the side of it. So I'm going to click on this guy. And so there's two things you need to be able to do. One is you need to download the ISO file. ISO file is basically a virtual DVD, a software-based DVD. So I'm going to go ahead and download that guy. And while it's downloading, I'm going to go ahead and get the key because I also need an activation key. Okay, kind of makes sense? So I'm going to go ahead and just fire up the thing here. I'm going to just copy this to my paste buffer so I don't have to deal with it later. Okay. So now we're just waiting for the download to do its thing. I'm going to speed this up through the magic of video editing. Okay, so the download is done. I'm just going to bring up the good old Explorer and take a look at my downloads. And so there it is, my ISO file. Now you're not actually going to do anything with it from here. We're just going to leave it where it is, and then we're going to fire up a VirtualBox and then tell it where all this stuff goes. So that's the next step. Okay, so I've launched VirtualBox, and I'm going to configure I already have one here, but I'm going to create a new one. So I'm going to go hit New, and then it's going to tell, what am I going to call this thing? Well, I'm just going to call mine Win10. I mean, maybe for your class, it should be called something else. The ISO image. Well, I'm going to go in here and drill down and find that guy. I put mine, if you recall, in downloads. And so there it is. Okay. Edition, it says all the stuff, and then it says skip unattended installation. So that means I do not want to do an unattended. So I really want to go in there and do that. Kind of makes sense? Okay. So it picked all this stuff, and don't worry about the home edition, because when we get to that, we're going to, the actual edition is based upon the activation key. All right. So all I did was basically put in the name of the thing I want to call it, the location of the ISO image. I clicked on this thing where it says skip unattended, and I'm going to hit next. Now, if you can afford it on your machine, see this green tells me how much room I have, so to speak. I'm going to go ahead and put like 3 gig of RAM for mine, or maybe 4. 3092 is a good round number for me. And the number of processors, I have a couple processors to spare, so I'm going to go ahead and give it 2 processors. Okay, so far so good. So again, this really depends on how beefy your machine is. Okay, so I'm going to hit next. And then, yes, I'm going to create a new hard drive. And I don't know, how about 64 gig? That sounds like a good round number. Something like that. Don't know. I'm just going to take the next. And then it comes up. Here's a summary. Here's what we're going to do. And then all this, I go, yep. Finish. So basically now what I've done is I have a virtual machine. And I'm going to mount a CD-ROM into it and then turn the machine on. Isn't that how you normally would install things? But before we get there, I'm going to go and just take a peek at the settings. Okay, so Here you have an opportunity to, go in here and say, I want to have shared clipboard and that kind of stuff. We're going to do that part later. If you wanted to put in a nice little description, the system, this is kind of cool. Like how many processes and all, and if you have any acceleration. Display, I'm going to leave mine at the default 128. Storage that basically shows an empty disk plus the CD-ROM, the fake CD-ROM. Audio, I'm going to leave that alone. Network, probably ought to leave that at NAT. That is the default. NAT allows me to have my machine exist, but it cannot see the other machines on the network. Very handy if you're at school. And it cannot talk to the host machine. You can go out to the internet, but that's about it. So that's good. I don't care about serial ports and USB drives. I don't do that. We are going to use shared folders, but not right now. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and hit start. Okay, so I fired it up, and it basically says, what language and blah, 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 blah. I'm just going to hit next. There's nothing to do here. Moving on. Install now, yes. Setup is starting. And then my activation key. I'm just going to go ahead and type mine in, so just give me a second. Okay, I typed in my code, and now it's asking me if I accept the license. I say, yeah, I accept the license. And then you would think this would be smart enough to know that you're not actually upgrading anything because you don't have anything, but it's not. So I'm going to go ahead and do down here where it says custom install. I only have one hard drive out there, so that's pretty easy. I just select this guy. And then it goes off and does this thing. Now I'm going to speed this up just because of, video editing, so we don't have to watch. Okay, it's made it through all that, and it's time for me to restart. So that's what I'll do. I do not want to boot from a CD-ROM here. Okay, so it probably picked the right region, so we're going to go say okay to that. That's pretty straightforward. And the right keyboard, yep, I'm going to pick that. Do I want to do another keyboard? No, so I'm going to hit skip. Okay, now this part's a little confusing. They really, really, really want you to log in with a work or school account. I really don't want to do that because this is a virtual machine, and it just makes a lot more sense to have a local account and not use anything tied to an email address. So down at the bottom, there's a thing that says domain join instead. So I'm going to ignore all of this because this would work, but it would tie your account to your an MSA account if you already have one, or a school account, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to hit this, and then I want to type in whatever I want my name to be. I'm going to say, I just put a dot between the two, and here I'll leave this little prompt. Or even better, use an online account. No, I don't want to do that. And then super memorable password. Okay, cool. And then confirm, of course. And then it's going to ask me for some security questions, and I'm just going to blow through these things because I don't really care. So okay, now we got it passed through that part. I'm going to turn all of these off. Now, there's nothing really wrong with this, but this is a test environment, and Microsoft is trying to gather information on how you use your machine, right? The telemetry stuff. And quite frankly, in a classroom environment, you're not providing them any useful information. So this is both to benefit you and them, okay? Because we just don't need any of that. Okay, and so Cortana, I'm going to hit not now. Actually, not ever, but they don't have an option for that. And then we have the normal thing you've probably seen before. The little thing where it says, hang on a second, we're building your profile. Okay, hooray, we made it to the end. Actually not. What we need to do now is we need to add some what's called the guest editions onto our Windows 10. The guest editions from VirtualBox provide the driver support for like the the video driver and the sound driver and all those kinds of things. So it's kind of sort of important. So the way I normally do it, I'm going to drag this guy down so you can see it. There's the thing called Devices, and it's Insert Guest Edition CD. Sometimes when you insert the disc itself, physically insert it, it automatically does the little prompt. Sometimes it doesn't. So I'm going to hit the thing here, go to this PC, go to my CD-ROM drive, and then just hit on the Virtual Box Editions guy. Just double click on him like normal. Yep, I'm just going to say next to everything. The location is fine. Yep, that's fine. Do all this good stuff. So it's basically going to install the driver pack. I'm not actually going to reboot right this now. But a couple things you're going to notice after you do the guest editions, okay, you might want to rename the machine and change the time zone. It may not be correct. If I just do a right click and go to System, go down here to About, and then way down here at the bottom is rename this PC, so I can change the name to something else. Rename this computer. So I don't want this random thing. I might want to call mine, I don't know, Win10 or something, right? Something, or maybe what class you're in, CIS, 1234 Win10 or something, right? Something like that. And so that'll be the new name. Oh yeah, okay, fine. Can't have spaces. Great. Anyway, the point is you can change the name if you really wanted to. You can also change the time zone so it matches. Well, one of the drivers that installed is this way to synchronize the time on the host machine. So you actually ought to do that in the right order. Anyway, so that's about it. So now you've got everything. Optional things you can do is set up the thing to allow you to have a shared folder, a folder on the host machine that shows up as a drive letter on the guest. So I'll grab some C:\\kumquat on my host machine, and it shows up as drive letter Z in my guest machine. That way I can transfer files back and forth. That's kind of outside the scope of this, but so once you get this thing up and running, you could probably figure this part out. Okay, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed a short little video on how to install and configure Windows 10 for a typical class.